Founded in 1973 by 11 leading consumer electronics companies, the organization that our next guest heads up not only promotes the consumer tech industry, but owns and organizes IFA. It's our absolute pleasure to have the managing director of GFU Consumer and Home Electronics, Dr. Sara Warneke. Dr. Sara, welcome into Tomorrow. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And for our audience back in the U.S., a doctor here doesn't always necessarily mean a medical doctor. I'm assuming perhaps something involving law.
No, you're wrong at this. I am an economist.
So a doctor of economy.
Yeah.
Whoa. Certainly even more important these days, I think.
Certainly, yes.
Especially to head up such an organization. And I'm going to have to ask you, because in all of our 20 years, I've always had to ask Roland how to pronounce GFU and what that means and what it stands for. So I'm going to yield to you to tell me what GFU means.
So we are an industry organization, as you just mentioned, now it's 14 shareholders, and they are all manufacturers within the consumer electronics and home appliances sector. And so it's this little organization that has the trademark rights to IFA and is therefore the organizer of this trade show.
And GFU stands for? In German?
Yes, it's Gesellschaft für Unterhaltungs- und Kommunikationselektronik, or it used to be, and now...
Which, by the way, is absolutely correct. I just couldn't repeat that to save my life.
But you know, we don't actually ever say it out anymore because it...
Like IFA. We don't say that it used to be, I used to joke, the International Fahrvergnügen. No, the International Funkausstellung.
Exactly.
Yeah, it took me years to get that. But it doesn't stand for anything anymore either, because everyone knows IFA like we know GFU.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does, I think. Well, that's really interesting because you guys have grown dramatically over the years as well and doing a heck of a job representing the consumer electronics industry.
Yes, and also the home appliances sector as well, which has been incorporated quite a few years ago, but now is a very important part of IFA, and therefore also part of our shareholders come from this industry sector.
Sure. What makes IFA different for those who may not be familiar? Our regular audience knows because we've been here every year, except the past two for some silly pandemic thing, I imagine. But for the most part, people understand IFA, but for those who don't quite understand, what makes IFA different than other similar kinds of trade shows?
So I'm not sure there actually is another show that is so similar to IFA. It is, to my knowledge, the most important trade show for consumer electronics and home appliances, which are two sectors that are very much linked with each other because they have to do with everything consumers actually own at home as electronic and electrical devices. And it's a great thing to have all these things at one show. Also, the smart home sector is here, telecommunication. So all these things consumer actually has in their everyday life is here at IFA at one point, and you can take a look at everything and know what you need in your home for getting online or doing your everyday chores and being entertained and working. Yeah,
and
that's it.
I think one of the most important differences about IFA than other trade shows, for example, we broadcast from this little show in Vegas every January, CES, the Chinese electronics show. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I also don't exactly know.
Yeah, you've heard of it as well, I'm sure.
Maybe.
But here, the public is invited to attend. And we tell that to our audience back in the U.S., and they go, I wish I could go to CES all these years. We're not allowed. No, you're not. It's only us media types and buyers and exhibitors and those in the industry. Not the case with IFA. You are more than welcome, and we've told our audience that for years. Take a nice vacation to Berlin around IFA and bring the family to see all the things that you just referred to for the home. Your smart home and home health and tech, everything. and appliances, of course. That's a big difference. It's awesome to see the families and pushing strollers around, for example, and really enjoying this show.
Definitely, and this is something that has always been an important part of IFA, that we also have the consumers, so the people who are actually using the devices and products, come here and try everything out and see for themselves what there is new and what's coming up next and all the innovations, all the possibilities. So I think it's really a great opportunity to come here, especially if you're here from the area. It's not a long drive, and I mean, we are also happy about people coming from overseas if they would love to. We would welcome them.
Yeah, well, I think Berlin's probably one of the very few cities in the world that can handle such a crowd too. There's plenty of hotel rooms. There's plenty of restaurants. Oh my gosh, the food, the beer, it's everything is just wonderful here. But it's a perfect opportunity for families as well, which is what I think is so great. I like to stand back and watch a family at an exhibit here at IFA, and they're asking the very appropriate questions. Unlike CES or other trade shows around the world where it's engineers and buyers, and they don't, they're asking questions about selling product. The families want to know, well, why is it blue? Or what does that button do? Or why didn't you do such and such? It's like built-in marketing for these companies. They're making notes diligently about, wow, version 2, we got to do this and this and this, because actual consumers are touching and feeling and observing all of the products here on the show floors.
Yes, and that's what it's made for, that you actually can get in touch. You can see the brilliance of the colors of the TVs and how now AI enhances pictures. And you can also actually take a sip of coffee at the newest cold brew machine, or you can taste something from a cook who's actually here and explains to you how the newest kitchen devices work. Or you can try out maybe even how to get your hair dried. So there is really every opportunity to try things out and to really get a grasp of what the things actually do, and also get feedback as a manufacturer, how the consumers perceive your product.
Some great points. So if it's anything you can think of for the home, appliances, consumer electronics, anything you can think of and then some, it's here at IFA.
Definitely. And we even have a startup area where you can see things that are not on the market yet, but will probably become maybe famous or interesting, and things you can buy in a few years, or also if there is somebody who invests in it, even sooner.
Sure, IFA Next. There's a lot of networking, which is terrific, and especially for smaller companies. We expect big things from big companies, but they tend to react not as fast as a small company can with a cool product. And we love finding those companies and helping promote them and their products, because that's what we as consumers are interested in as well. So that's terrific. And certainly the technical consumer goods, or you guys refer to TCG, the markets have been performing, I guess, somewhat differently the last couple of years for the same reasons that other markets have performed differently. How have you seen what's happened in the last 2 years, especially no IFA last year, virtual the year before? Thank goodness we're back to in-person, and it's been working beautifully as we've been here. But the changes, how have they affected the industry, do you think?
There has been a lot of impact on the industries because, of course, people were, due to the coronavirus pandemic, bound to be at home. So stay at home was the slogan everybody had to comply with, or felt it was necessary to comply with. And so people stayed at home, and they did a lot of things they used to do outside in their own four walls. They had entertainment at home, they were working from home, kids were schooled from home, and of course there was a lot more baking and cooking as well. So all of a sudden you had a lot of needs to do from your own home, and so people upgraded their systems and their kitchens and their entertainment systems, and it was a really big boom for the industries of consumer electronics and home appliances in 2020 and 2021. And
So that's sort of the good news out of the
yes.
pandemic, is that so many people had to upgrade and do various things, not even talking yet about working from home, because tech made a huge difference for folks that had to work from home, and many still are, because they've gotten into that habit, and it's okay with the boss. Yeah, keep the good work going, and yeah, work at home if that's better for you because of the kids or whatever. And again, it's all about consumer tech making that difference.
Exactly. And so a lot of people also had to upgrade their home offices.
Yeah.
So they had to buy screens and printers and telecommunication devices and maybe even a camera to do better Zoom meetings and stuff like that. So yes, there was really a boom period over the past 2 years. And even in this first quarter of 2022, we still saw a good run for the year. But then, unfortunately, there are some factors that kind of broke this trend. And one of it is that already in the last quarters of 2021, prices started to rise, so inflation has been affecting consumers, and even more so this year with the energy crisis. It has been really hard for consumers because now they are afraid, since the energy costs are rising so much, am I able to pay my energy bill at the end of the year? And
unfortunately, maybe spend a little less on entertainment
exactly.
or those kinds of things you talked about previously, because now it's another crisis.
Exactly. So especially low-income households have been more reluctant to spend money in the past few months. And we also expect this to go on for the rest of the year. So this is like a little bit the bad news. But on the other hand, we still see the entire industry performing above pre-pandemic levels of 2019.
Good.
So it might be that the run is a little bit over of getting from one peak to the next, but on the other hand, there is still a solid foundation and not too much to worry about. And we also have the effects of people wanting to save energy because of high energy costs, and also due to a more sustainable life people want to lead. So especially the products from the home appliance sector, where there is a lot of thought put into sustainable devices and energy saving, and actually the whole entire life cycle, so from production to use of the device, and then also the end of life cycle when you recycle things and when you put them apart and maybe use parts of it again. So the industry is really putting a lot of thought into that, and people actually have the chance to replace their energy guzzlers with more sustainable devices. And I think that might actually be a positive impulse for the industry.
Again, tech to the rescue.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, and that's what you are very heavily involved in, what we cover exclusively as well. On a brighter note, to end our conversation, I could go on with you because you are not only knowledgeable but fun to talk with, so we definitely need to get you back on the show, of course. But what has you most excited this year about IFA and this market in general?
Well, as you mentioned before, we didn't have the chance to have IFA in the past 2 years at a physical event. And this year is completely different. The big companies are back. The buzz is going on here again on the fairground of Messe Berlin, and I'm really excited to see all these halls full of exhibitors and their interesting and fascinating products. Excellent. And today is still a media day, but tomorrow the halls are going to be full of people, and this is the thing I'm most excited about.
Good. As well you should be. Us too, because as we record your interview, you're right, the show opens officially tomorrow, and we'll have, of course, many of the guests here at IFA on the program. If you missed last week's broadcast, be sure and check it out, and check out all the videos of all the radio interviews as well, because we're not only showing you the guests, but when they have products to show, we're showing you all those products as well. They're bringing them to our broadcast center to show you. Dr. Sara Warneke, the Managing Director for GFU Consumer and Home Electronics. You want to visit gfu.de/en for English. We'll get you there when you visit intotomorrow.com. Thank you so much for kicking off this week's IFA Part 2 and joining us on the program.
You're most welcome. Glad to be here.
And thank you for having us. So kudos to you and your staff and our friend Roland on your staff, who has helped to take very good care of us and our team throughout the years as well. You're all doing a terrific job. So keep it up as we head further into tomorrow with IFA.
Thank you, and you too.
Thank you very much. We're back with more. I'm Dave Graveline. Into Tomorrow continues from Berlin, Germany. Don't miss a minute. Stay tuned right here on the Advanced Media Network.